I keep daydreaming about RTX 3080, and I really want it so bad. Ah! Okay. I got a little lightheaded. Oh god. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm super excited to be pressing on and talking about this specific feature for Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, this being the maps in Cantha. And of course I'll touch on some of the things that they have said about designing dynamic events and meta events. But first, I want to actually go through the different maps that we seem to be getting, review some of the in-game screenshots that we have, of course, and maybe throw in some concept art pieces throughout the video as well. But I think the very first place that we should start as we continue to start for these videos is on the official Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons website. So, Empire of the Dragon, the Canthan continent. Over 2 centuries ago, the Empire of the Dragon severed all bonds with Central Tyria and Alona. Cantha has its own history of turmoil and triumph, reflected in ancient landmarks, enduring artistry, and modern life. A little blurb, definitely setting the stage for Cantha and of course its history of being a more isolated continent and culture. But now, with the End of Dragons and the ending cycle of the dragons, presumably, Cantha seems to be opening itself up, or we are going to Cantha and, saying, it doesn't matter, we got stuff to do, Arena's here, the dragon magic is calling. But we'll have to see a bit more about how we actually transition into Cantha. A lot of cool stuff there, especially in the trailer, that could hint at how we get to Cantha. But of course, we have 4 predominant maps, and this is a direct callback to Guild Wars factions. So first and foremost, we have the Xingji Island, which is the only zone that's really been shown off heavily. Echovald Forest has, of course, been hinted at a little bit, and we've seen some shots of it. But for the most part, Xingji Island is the only one we can really go over on the official Guild Wars 2 website. It's clickable, there's an art piece, and I guess that leads us into some of the in-game screenshots that we can actually take a look at for Xingji Island. Now, this place is so beautiful. It's really just vibrant. There's a lot of saturation behind these photos. This could be the in-game engine, and honestly, I would really like to see a more colorful Guild Wars 2, but keep in mind, I think we will still get a lot of that darker tones, especially come Echovald Forest. But Xingji Island, it's really just vibrant, beautiful, a lot of blossoms, bamboo, beautiful trees, and some boats, definitely keeping in touch with, of course, the skiffs and the fishing, which is a pretty highlighted feature of the expansion. And then there also seems to be, quite interestingly, incorporations of the Jade. Now, of course, we are getting more of the Dragon Jade magics, storylines with that, etc., etc., but they could be utilizing some of the excess Jade as increased and, elaborated architecture to really spice up and give vibrancy to Guild Wars 2's Cantha. Of course, this is 250 years in the future. But I want to point out some of these screenshots, like the Xingji Monastery, I presume. The architecture is so beautiful. It looks quite large, and I really love when Guild Wars 2 creates these epic fantasy structures that seem like towering and give you a sense of scale. And I think with mounts, personally, I feel like we've lost a bit of the sense of scale in Guild Wars 2, but I hope, and they seem to be going in the direction of creating very large, epic statement pieces for these maps. So that is a bit of Xingji Island. Next up, we can talk a little bit about Echovald Forest. Now, we haven't seen a lot of in-game engine shots of Echovald Forest, or at least if we have, they've been pretty much in one particular region, with the trees and such. But we have got a lot of concept art for the Echovald Forest. Now, the Echovald Forest is particularly intriguing to me because it seems to have a direct, different tone to Xingji Island. The Echovald Forest seems to be a bit more of a haunted place, a little bit more looming. And of course, the stone trees, they might no longer be petrified, so there could be a little bit more life to it. I see in concept art that there are lights in the cathedrals, so it could have a little bit more of a settlement aspect to it. And of course, in Guild Wars factions there was as well, but I still want there to be those tones of this being a ancient petrified forest and give off an eerie tone. And especially with the music pieces, I think in the Echovald Forest, you can really have those echoey soundtracks that give it really a large expanse, a really large feeling to it. So some of the screenshots are actually really lovely, and they have said multiple times in the live stream that they are bringing a sense of verticality to these maps. They're going to be utilizing, I can only imagine, hopefully gliding, but also, of course, the mounts from Path of Fire. And some of the in-game screenshots of the Echovald Forest really give the map a sense of real verticality. And of course, this could be taken on an Asura in first-person view with a limited field of view, so there could be, tricks of the camera here and there. But seeing the birds up in the distance and like a vine bridge, just a large branch going out, I hope that they really take advantage of the verticality, and even more so than Heart of Thorns. The cathedrals, the architecture, it's also cool. There's this one shot of like a side view of the forest with some of these architecture pieces. It looks really massive, and I can't wait to be exploring and seeing all like the little maybe treasure chests or collections we can do, and just exploring this area. The architecture is really cool. It's very gothic. It gives off that cathedral vibe, and I really cannot wait to explore the insides of these places. And I hope that there is a really big central hub. I think that's another point that we haven't necessarily talked about too much when it comes to expansions. Heart of Thorns didn't really have a central city where people congregated. I feel like Tarir was supposed to be that, and then early on in development they course corrected and it became more of a meta event focused map. And in Path of Fire, I think Amnoon kind of fulfilled that, so there could have been a little bit more added to Amnoon, like crafting stations, different merchants and marketplaces. I hope for End of Dragons that we have a new, main city. I think Lion's Arch, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be a lot of convenience to Lion's Arch, but I would like it if there was a central city in the expansion to keep players in these maps at least for a time. So those are all of the screenshots and snapshots we have of the map design and the overall aesthetic of these Cantha maps. Now I want to talk a little bit more about map design in terms of dynamic events and meta events. So Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons has been stated to be an expansion with a lot of free play value. Now I hope that they are pulling directly from their experience with Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. Heart of Thorns had some amazing replayability. Hell, I even still go back to those maps and farm them for currency or for armor skins or collections, etc., etc. They put a lot of great effort into those metas, made them feel really epic, especially Dragon Stand. And overall, I really look back on those maps with very fond memories. Now, Path of Fire did have a different take for the maps. The maps had much more of a role-playing PvE feel to it. They were very large and expansive, and accommodated those mounts quite beautifully. But there really wasn't much of a reason to go back to those maps and replay them on a consistent basis, other than maybe the bounty system. I hope in End of Dragons they kind of mesh the two systems with taking the good from Heart of Thorns and the good from Path of Fire. The good from Heart of Thorns being the replayable meta events, which they have said that they are going to be focusing on, and the Path of Fire map design of really utilizing maps and utilizing those masteries. Now, when it comes to meta events, a lot of people have said that Heart of Thorns was extremely challenging, and because the maps were so meta focused, some people might not feel very welcomed in those maps. Now, I personally love very challenging content that requires a lot of people to get together and work really well to destroy a boss and complete an encounter. But I will say, I wouldn't be so mad if Xingji Island was more of the roleplay friendly starter map that eases people into the expansion. I hope that when we get to the later maps in the story, potentially Echovald Forest and the Jade Sea, I hope those two maps really showcase their meta event focus. But Kyning could be a bit more of a more relaxed, a couple meta events here and there, and then we can go and transition into Echovald where we have like a really big map meta event, and the Jade Sea with a lot of replayability. But once again, Xingji Island and Kyning City could be replayable through collections. It doesn't really have to be massive meta events, but I'm pretty confident that they will still have meta events that are fun and exciting. Maybe not super challenging. They could leave those for the later maps, of course, to keep players in those zones. I'm very confident that they know what they're doing for these maps, considering we've had 2 expansions where we had very different styles of map making. So I can't help but say I wish them the best in these designs, really polish these events, make them feel epic, and I want to see some really cool bosses and all that stuff. Thank you everyone so much for coming by and watching this video on the maps and my little just feelings towards the End of Dragons maps. I am an official ArenaNet partner, which means I have links down below where you can pre-order End of Dragons, buy the existing expansions, and try Guild Wars 2 for free. All the links directly help me and help support the channel, so I greatly appreciate you guys for using those. And once again, I have a Patreon where you can gain videos early and get some exclusive access. And if not, you can subscribe, like, and comment down below your thoughts about the Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons maps, what you might hope to see based on meta events and overall design. Thank you guys for coming, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye everyone! Mwah.